Hey there, hope you're doing well. In this video, this is not going to be a technical podcast. It's in the sense that I'm going to take a particular specific engineering or development problem and talk you through a solution. But regardless, it is technology related in some way, form, or shape. I'm going to talk about myths, some of the most common myths when it comes to software engineering. Um, and I have a list here, and hopefully that list resonates with you. But I'm just going to share my opinion based on my experience and work that I've done over these years. The first one is, and the myth is around becoming or being a good software engineer, or let's go through the list, right? The first one is going to a good school, a great college, one that's highly ranked. People tend to believe that to end up in a job or a career where you're doing some really cool stuff, you have to go to one of these highly ranked schools. I don't believe that is the case. Right now, sure, if you did go to one of those schools, you may end up in one of those jobs probably earlier on in your career, or the chance of landing one of those jobs is probably a little bit much higher for you. But outside of that, I think it's all right. I mean, we've come to a point here in 2022 where all that matters is how much you know what you really know. So even if you went to a great school, you did that for 4 years, maybe longer, maybe shorter, and then you come out not knowing exactly what the market needs, then I don't believe you're in any better position. And I kind of strongly feel that the colleges have not caught up with what the real world needs. I felt it that way when I went to college like decades ago, and having worked closely with students who are working towards graduation at this point of time, I have little to believe that it has actually changed. It hasn't changed much at all. So if you are one of those people who wanted to go to a great school but probably didn't end up being going to one, don't lose heart or hope, because you shouldn't. All that matters is what you actually do know when you graduate or soon enough. So you're actually prepared to enter the world of engineering. As to what I think you might need, that probably warrants a separate video altogether. So I'll not go into the details, but please don't tell yourself that just because I didn't make it to one of these great schools, that I'm actually not in a good position to find that interesting piece of work. That's not true. Number two, the second myth: living in a technology city like Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, or if it's India, they call Bangalore the Silicon Valley of India, or something along those lines. I think it's probably fine. I've never lived in one of those cities. I live in the suburbs of Washington D.C. I don't know where this stands in terms of tech cities, but surely we don't. I don't believe we have as many startups. I don't think so, right? But it doesn't matter. If you wanted to do something in particular, in specific, even before the situation we find ourselves in, where most people are working remotely, predating that, you still were able to, and you are able to today, and you will be able to tomorrow, find work that you want to do that's interesting, that kind of keeps your brain ticking, regardless of where you live. Maybe living in one of these tech cities may have made things easier in the past, but personally I have not felt the need at all. I had the opportunity more than once to relocate to the Bay Area. I just didn't feel the urge. I don't like travel, but regardless, I didn't feel the urge. At least maybe better weather, maybe something else would have been a more reasonable, justifiable factor. But being able to do high quality work, I don't think so. I've lived here most all my life, actually, in work life. I would say 95% of my work life, and I take absolute pride in every single work, every project that I've done, and every product that I've built, and that's all I've done all of my life. So, I mean, it's great if you lived in one of those cities coincidentally, but I'm not sure if you have to necessarily relocate yourself if you're not the kind of person who actually wants to do that. Now, if you want to do it, more power to you, right? Then that's fine. But the myth is that you have to do it, which I don't think so. Point number three, the third myth, sorry, is working for a huge software company, right? And sometimes they say live and learn, right? I'm not calling out for these myths by not making some of these quote unquote mistakes myself. Maybe they're mistakes, maybe they're not, but I discovered them as myths after doing these, right? So the third one is working for a huge software company. Now, when you say FANG, like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, they're cool, obviously, right? They do great stuff. But are those the only ones that do great stuff? I don't think so, right? There are a lot of places, a lot of small companies, startups do phenomenal stuff. And then they become those companies one day, right? So you don't have to be working for one of those large organizations to do high quality work. Now the type of work is surely going to differ, and again we can do a different video. I can do a different video to speak to that as well. But I think I mean, every place has its pros and cons. But if someone tells you that you have to be working for one of these nice branded names so you can do high quality software engineering or development work, send them my way, right? I can share my opinion with them as well. I don't think that's the case at all, right? Myth number 4, working on a cool problem. Now, what I mean by a cool problem is sometimes, when someone explains a problem to you, it sounds very cool, right? It sounds very complex. It sounds like super, I don't know, attractive. And it probably is attractive. I'm not saying that they're not attractive, cool, interesting, difficult problems out there. But don't judge the kind of work you might be doing or someone might be doing based on how cool or not so cool it might look or sound to you. Because I've during the course of my career and building projects for small, really small, mid-size and large companies, and most of my career I've actually built products and platforms from scratch. Like, I think 90% of my experience is actually writing code from scratch. And I've worked with really, really small companies and even individuals who had just a little bit of money and want to build something, see something through to production, right? In whatever capacity. Now the problems may not, like there was a time I spoke to somebody who wanted to build I didn't end up picking up that work. It didn't work out for me at that point of time. But they did want my help to building something that related to garages, right? Software that's associated with parking garages. So now, without going into the details of the specific problem, it doesn't sound like super exciting, right? I mean, parking garages are probably one of the most boring things on earth. But the thing is, right, whether you're sending a satellite to space or launching rockets or building stuff for the garage, it doesn't matter, because that's the beauty of software. It's what you do, how complex the problem ends up being, right? What your requirements are, how soon you need to see that through to production, right? What stack you're building it on. So a lot of those factors actually play a role in making the problem interesting or not so interesting or outright boring. But it's not, so the coolness of the problem as you perceive it, just because it sounds complex and cool doesn't mean that's cooler than something else. So give every problem that someone explains to you its due respect before you make that decision, right? Okay, the next myth, getting paid a lot of money, right? A lot of dollars. Of course, sure, everyone wants to get paid a lot. Who doesn't want to, right? I mean, everyone deserves to get paid a lot more than they probably actually get paid. But I don't think how much someone gets paid has any bearing on the quality of the work that they do. And I can tell you, because I've picked up projects that have paid me a wide variety of, there's a wide gamut of rates they have charged. Because I actually end up charging lesser if I think the problem is more complex. And it might sound counterintuitive maybe to some of you, but it's because when you want to solve a more complex problem, you're okay to not getting paid as much. Maybe the client doesn't have that kind of money, right? So you have two options: either reject them or still pick up the problem because you're interested more in the problem than the money that comes out of it, as long as it makes your time worthwhile. So and on the flip side, I've done projects that have paid a lot of money and they've not been that complex, right? They've actually been reasonably boring, if you know what I mean. So how much you get paid, how much money a project has no bearing on the quality of work that someone or you might end up doing there, right? So that's another myth that I've seen, that people believe that more the money, the better, the more complex the project or more interesting the work. The next one, having an enviable title. And now this one's tricky because personally I've never had one other than, I don't know, maybe my best title was like a senior engineer or maybe an architect, or I don't know. I don't even recall because I don't honestly care. A lot of my contracts, the way it's written, we need Snowpal to do X, Y, and Z, right? It doesn't matter. We need Krish to do X, Y, and Z. What Krish's role is or title is, nobody knows. The contract doesn't say. I don't know. I don't care, right? As long as I like what I'm solving, I'm happy solving that problem. And these titles, sometimes they're much more fancier on LinkedIn and you publish them than when they are actually outside. I'm getting to the 10-minute mark. It's actually, my videos are not short at all. I'm going to cut here abruptly and then pick it up in the next video, right? It's going to be a second 2-part video. Before I end this one, if you haven't checked us out already, sign up on snowpal.com, download our apps and manage your workload better. Thank you.